I was lying in a hospital bed with severe combat injuries, barely able to feel my legs, when my husband handed me divorce papers. He took our savings, moved in with his mistress, and left me alone with our 3-month-old son. 9 years later, he walked into a courtroom demanding full custody, convinced his wealth and my past disability would ruin me. But he had no idea what was buried inside my classified military records. When the judge read just one single sentence out loud, the room went dead silent, and my ex-husband turned ghost white. When I deployed overseas, I thought my biggest battle would be on the front lines. I served as a combat medic, putting my life on the line to bring wounded soldiers home. But during a night mission, an explosive device detonated near our transport. I survived, but the blast shattered my lower spine and left me facing months of intensive rehabilitation. When I was medically evacuated back home, I was confined to a wheelchair, holding on to the hope that my family would be my sanctuary. Instead, I returned home to a cold house and a distant husband. Mark looked at my injuries, not with compassion, but with disgust. Just 2 weeks after my return, while I was still struggling to hold our 3-month-old son Leo in my arms, Mark served me with divorce papers. He clean drained our shared bank accounts, left the house key on the kitchen counter, and drove off with his new girlfriend. I was broken physically, emotionally, and financially, left alone in an empty house with an infant who depended entirely on me. The next few years were pure survival. I pushed myself through grueling physical therapy, learning to walk again step by painstaking step. Every morning was a battle against chronic pain. But looking at my son gave me the strength to keep moving forward. I worked late nights, built a steady career in logistics, and gave Leo a quiet, safe, and loving home. Mark was completely absent during all those years. He never sent a birthday card, never asked how Leo was doing, and never paid a single dollar in child support. He was busy living an extravagant life, posting photos on social media in expensive suits next to his new wife. I let the past stay in the past, focusing entirely on my son and my recovery. 9 years after he walked out of nowhere, I was served with a massive legal summons. Mark was suing me for full sole custody of Leo. He hired a high-powered law firm and filed a motion claiming I was an unfit mother due to my combat service and physical injuries. In his court filings, he painted me as an unstable veteran whose physical limitations made it dangerous for me to raise a child. He believed that his sudden wealth, combined with my past medical history, would easily convince a family court judge to hand our son over to him. On the day of the hearing, Mark strutted into the courtroom wearing a designer suit, smirking at me from across the aisle with utter confidence. When the judge took the bench, Mark's high-priced lawyer stood up and launched into a ruthless attack on my character. He presented my past medical discharge papers, highlighting my spinal injury and claiming that I was physically incapable of protecting Leo. He argued that Mark's luxurious home and high income proved he was the superior parent. My attorney remained calm and handed the bailiff a thick, sealed folder containing my complete military service file, along with a certified financial audit of Mark's former companies. The judge adjusted his glasses and opened the folder, reading through the documents silently for several long minutes, while the entire courtroom waited in total silence. Finally, the judge looked up over his glasses, his eyes locked onto Mark. The judge stated that before making a decision on custody, he was going to read one official line from my military commendation record into the open court transcript. He read aloud that during my final deployment, I had pulled 4 wounded soldiers from a burning vehicle under heavy fire while sustaining my own critical injuries, earning the Silver Star for heroic valor under extreme pressure. The judge then paused, looked directly at Mark, and asked how a man who abandoned a 3-month-old infant could claim that a decorated combat veteran was incapable of protecting her own son. The judge did not stop there. He pulled out the second set of documents, revealing that the court had uncovered Mark's deliberate evasion of 9 years' worth of child support, alongside evidence that his current business was under federal investigation for financial fraud. Mark's face drained of all color as his smirk vanished completely. The judge immediately dismissed Mark's custody petition with prejudice, meaning he could never file for it again. The judge ordered Mark to pay 9 years of back child support with interest, along with covering all my legal fees, and granted me full, exclusive physical and legal custody. Mark sat frozen in his chair, completely crushed by his own arrogance. As I walked out of that courtroom holding my son's hand, I knew that the battle was finally over and justice had been served. Standing outside the courthouse in the bright afternoon sunlight, Leo squeezed my hand and looked up at me with a smile. For 9 long years, I had quietly carried the weight of betrayal and pain, fighting every single day to rebuild our lives from the ground up. Mark thought he could use my past sacrifices to tear my family apart, but he severely underestimated the strength of a mother who has already survived the worst life could throw at her. Justice may take time, but truth and love will always win in the end.